Hey guys, Coach Goodrich here with part 3 of our Unit 6, which is going to deal with federal reconstruction after the Civil War. Like I said, this Unit 6, part 3. Go ahead and get your notes out. This is a much shorter one than what we've had to deal with before, but let's go ahead and discuss. Here we go. Reconstruction, immediate problems. Yeah, economic issues, political issues, and social issues. Economic issues. Millions of dollars are needed to rebuild, especially in the South, thanks to things like the March to the Sea, and just the battles in general. Fighting is expensive. Political issues. What is going to happen to the South in terms of government? They formed their own country. They broke away. How do we let them back in? This has never been done before. Who's going to be in power? Who's going to be in charge of the states? And then social issues. We just have 4 million freed slaves. What do we do with them? That's the biggest single day of, immigration in American history. 4 million new citizens. What are we going to do with them? How do we take care of them? How are they going to take care of us? So we got two distinct strategies for Reconstruction. You got presidential Reconstruction and Congressional Reconstruction. For presidential Reconstruction, Lincoln wanted to make things as easy as possible for the country to come back together. His plan was called the 10% plan. Only 10% of the state's population had to take the loyalty oath, and then the state could rejoin the Union. A very merciful, very easy plan to follow. Lincoln did not want to cause any more problems. He wanted the country to come back together as quickly and as painlessly as possible. After Lincoln's death, Andrew Johnson tries to follow this approach, but Congress refuses to carry it out. Congressional Reconstruction was much harsher. Congress was dominated by then radical Republicans who wanted to severely punish the South for breaking away. After Johnson runs out of steam, Congress enforces much stricter loyalty laws, harsher financial reparations, etc. But the only thing this would do would further divide the North and the South. If not nominally, it did so psychologically, psychologically. Andrew Johnson, the 17th President of the United States. Southerner from Tennessee, but remained loyal to the Union. He was chosen by Lincoln to help gather support from Southern states after the war was over. Tried to carry out Lincoln's plan for Reconstruction after his death with mixed results. He is the first president in American history to be impeached. He is so for violating the Tenure of Office Act. He removed someone from office without congressional approval. The final vote needed to remove him from office. He had 35 votes that said he should be removed, which is one shy of the 36 votes needed. So very, very close. Goals of Congressional Reconstruction: restore congressional power, limit the executive branch by any means necessary. Lincoln was an extremely powerful president, as oftentimes wartime presidents are. And Congress wanted to restore some of that balance, get some of that power back. They wanted to punish Southern leaders, keep them out of political or public office where they cannot challenge Northern Republican officials. They also wanted to protect the freedmen, these freed slaves, educate, house, aid former slaves and their families. The Freedmen's Bureau was set up for this purpose. This is going to lead to scalawags and carpetbaggers moving from the north to the south to take advantage of the population down there. Civil rights amendments. The 13th Amendment banned slavery. 14th Amendment grants citizenship to African Americans. The 15th Amendment, African American male suffrage or the right to vote. One of the great ironies in history, Hiram Revels, the first black senator elected to Congress, replaced Jefferson Davis in his Senate spot from Mississippi. Remember, Jefferson Davis was a president of the Confederacy. So I'm sure he was very pleased about that. Congressional Reconstruction would eventually lead into military Reconstruction. By 1867, the 10 unreconstructed states were to be divided into 5 districts, and the 3rd district was Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. To gain admission into the Union, each southern state was required to do all the following: ratify the 14th Amendment and later the 15th, establish a state constitution that abolished slavery, and disqualify former Confederate officers from voting, so they would have no power to change the government. Georgia would be the last state to be formally readmitted to the Union in 1870. Now, I want to take a second and look at this picture here. So you see all these states that are on the top right here. And you see this building that's being built up. It's still in the process. It's almost like it's being reconstructed or constructed. And you see the great faces here. You got Jesus in the middle. You have, looks like the representation of justice. maybe divine mercy. You have a handshake in the middle trying to bridge the North and the South back together. You got Abraham Lincoln, you got George Washington, the spirits of the great leaders of the past trying to bring this country back together, being united again, which is a very fanciful and a nice, pleasant way of doing it. Didn't really work out that well. Reconstruction formally ends. 1868, former General Ulysses S. Grant defeats Horatio Seymour for the presidency, and he becomes president again in 72, beating Horace Greely. 1876, Samuel J. Tilden, a Democrat, gathers 250,000 more popular votes than Rutherford B. Hayes, his Republican opponent. He also wins the electoral votes thanks to that, 184 to 165. However, 20 of those votes are disputed and brought before a 15-member electoral commission. Tilden's 184 votes were one short of the 185 needed for the election of the presidency. The disputed votes of 4 states, South Carolina, Florida, Louisiana, and Oregon, were of crucial importance. Each state turned in 2 sets of electoral returns with different results. The commission, in a backhanded deal, very well known by this point in history, awarded all 20 votes to Hayes, giving him the electoral majority of 185 to 184. This is called the Compromise of 1877. Hayes is basically handed the presidency, and in return, he said he would formally withdraw all federal troops, all northern troops from the South, thus ending Reconstruction. So, a dirty, backhanded deal, yes, but it ends Reconstruction. There's Ulysses S. Grant in his old age, and then Rutherford B. Hayes. Now, just because we're reconstructing does not mean that things are getting that much better for the African American community. Yes, they are free, but there are going to be a lot of issues that pop up. This is a time period known as the Long Night. You're going to have things like black codes, which are laws that kept blacks in semi-slavery, things like poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses to even keep them to vote. Poll taxes, you had to pay a certain amount, which a lot of them could not afford. Literacy tests, you had to prove that you could read or write in order to vote. Grandfather clauses were arcane rules that if your grandfather voted in the last election, then you could vote, which of course for slaves that hadn't happened. You have Jim Crow laws, which are informal rules or customs that purposely tried to separate the races. The KKK comes about, the Ku Klux Klan, which originally means Circle of Friends, but it was a terrorist organization founded to promote white supremacy, really white Protestant supremacy. And you have the whole idea of separate but equal, which is determined during the Plessy versus Ferguson court case of 1896. Homer Plessy was 1/8 black, but was required to ride in the black train car. When you look at his picture, you'll think that's insane. Booker T. Washington, a famous scientist and inventor, founded the Tuskegee Institute, encouraged African Americans to learn a trade and gradually push for equality, one of the early civil rights leaders. There's Homer Plessy. Doesn't look very black to me. The results of Reconstruction. You're going to have what is called, just make sure we get good time, the Solid South. The South is going to vote Democrat in all presidential elections from 1880 to 1928. African Americans' rights, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments are going to pop up, which are very important. Most plantations are going to be broken up and split among different families. Have a rise of sharecropping and tenant farming, so poor, almost subsistence level farming between poor whites and blacks of the American South. You can see the growth of industry and factories in larger cities in the North, New York, Boston, Philadelphia. These industries are going to eventually make their way to the South, and big cities begin to grow back. Places like Atlanta, Birmingham, Charleston, Richmond. Pretty much, if you were poor, you stayed poor, regardless of your skin color. And we're on our final mini quiz for this unit. So this is for Unit 6. Please go ahead and answer these questions right now using the notes and videos. And also, do not forget to finish. Take this quiz on Google Classroom as well for your grade. And I look forward to discussing this with you very soon. Appreciate it, guys.